Champions Cup Rugby is back again for another year, folks. It's time to bust out the top 14 in the Premiership jerseys for me. I've been having a look at some of the odds, what the pool stages is kind of looking like. We're going to go through that and a little bit about the broadcasters as well, because it seems like there's a little bit of a change of strategy there from the bigwigs in European rugby. And you guys can let us know your thoughts. Pool stage, honestly, for the Champions Cup is not one that I'm that excited about. There's obviously some great matchups like coming up this weekend. I think, what was it? There's Bulls taking on Bordeaux. There's, Bath against Munster. There's Toulouse Sharks. There's some good games. But also, the pool stage is like 4 pools of 6 teams, and not everybody plays everybody. The teams from the same league, like the top 14, don't play each other. Premiership don't play each other. It's not one that I get. Like, I enjoy some of the games, but it's not one that thrills me every single game, kind of edge of the seat. Maybe no competition is. I still feel like the older format that I used to watch from the Champions Cup was just a bit more meaningful than this one. But hey, I don't want to start this video on a negative. I want to talk about some of the kind of contenders and whatnot as we look to get into the juicy stage. The juicy stage is really maybe from the quarterfinals onwards. Like, we got a couple of juicy games in the round of 16 last time, like Munster rolling La Rochelle. I think there was a massive result between, who was it? One of the French teams and Saracens put like 100+ point game on. Like, there are some good games as well, but I mean, I remember Leinster giving Harlequins a hiding and whatnot. So quarterfinals is where it really gets juicy, but we still have some entrees, I guess, until then. Who are the favourites? I feel like it's kind of the usual suspects. Toulouse is one of the favourites alongside Leinster. And I feel like in recent years it would have always been joined by La Rochelle. However, now that is kind of replaced by Bordeaux. I'm taking these partly from my own gut, but also just look at the bookmakers' odds. They've all got these 3 teams as your favourites, with Toulouse being the kind of number 1 favourite, but not too far behind from these other 2 teams. The French have had a real stranglehold on the competition for the last 5 years now. We haven't seen anybody but a top 14 side win it. Northampton getting to the final last season was at least a shot for the Premiership teams to get back in, because it had been a long absence from even making the final from Premiership sides. Exeter won it back in like the 2019-2020 season. But it's been Toulouse, it's been La Rochelle, it's been Bordeaux. Leinster being runner-up multiple times. So, yeah, it does feel like the top 14 have still got a bit of a stranglehold on this competition. Who are the teams just behind the favourites? It is the likes of Toulon, I think, are doing pretty good in the top 14 this year. They're top 3 sides. Northampton, runners-up from last year's competition, like I mentioned. I really need to update the logo. The top-ranked South African side is the Bulls. And you feel like the South African sides could really use a good strong team in the Champions Cup this year, because I think the furthest they've made it is the quarters. I don't think we've seen a South African side win a quarterfinal yet in the Champions Cup since their introduction to the comp. The coach is kind of balancing up. Where do you focus? Do you focus on the URC? Do you focus on the Champions Cup? It's been a little bit of a tough sell, I feel like, in some markets in South Africa, because fans are only still just getting used to the URC as this kind of relatively new competition, and then to chuck even more teams at them is a little bit of a stretch to get buy-in from some of the fans who've been watching a lot of rugby, because it's a pretty full-on season in South Africa. But yeah, the Bulls are, bookies-wise, top favourite South African side. Then there's Premiership champs Bath, who are maybe being a little bit undersold by the bookies because they've got a pretty stacked squad. And then La Rochelle has kind of dropped from one of those favourites to a kind of potential contender. And then there are a few sides who you feel like are you kind of dark horses. Sides who've potentially maybe got a bit more European pedigree, even if it's not going that flash. Like, I think Saracens in the Prem have got a pretty mixed record thus far this season. Munster in the Champions Cup are always pretty good value for a good upset. Like, as I said, they beat La Rochelle last year in the round of 16, the only side to get it done away from home. That was the whole kind of Ronan O'Gara Munster reunion thing, which was cracking. I remember Munster years ago, when Exeter were like flying high, everyone was saying when they went to Sandy Park, Munster were going to get destroyed, and I think they played out a draw. Like, Munster's got some really good European games in them. Glasgow, not that long ago, URC champions, you feel like are decent enough for a dark horse. And then maybe, not the bookies saying it, but me saying it, maybe the Stormers. Stormers are doing all right in the URC. So the Stormers might be a pretty decent value. But realistically, you feel like it is those top three sides who will be, at least one of them is going to be in the final. For sure. I mean, Northampton was a little bit of a surprise package last year, you feel. But it'd be a good storyline for that kind of thing to happen again. As I said, the French sides have had a pretty commanding lead over this competition for the last few years. Broadcast-wise, as I said, there seems to be a bit of a change of tact for outside of the kind of core markets for this competition. Like, it's still Premier Sports in the UK alongside with the S4C broadcast as well. Good luck to the Scarlets in this competition because it's going to be rough. Premier Sports in Ireland and France Sport TV, BN Sports in France, Super Sport in South Africa. Those are your kind of usual suspects. In America, it's Flow Rugby. They're always an affiliate of the channel. So if you are in the States and you want to watch some Champions Cup or Challenge Cup, there'll be a link down in the description to Flow. Use my link when you sign up. Do me a solid. Doesn't cost you anything extra, but they might give old 2 cents a wee bit of commission. That's USA and Canada, actually, not just the US. But then pretty much all the other markets, I mean, there's a few extras. I think Portugal and Spain have got their own broadcasters, but largely they're going in-house this year, keeping it on their own EPCR TV service. Like, traditionally, this competition has been on Sky Sports New Zealand, which is our main broadcaster who has all the All Blacks games and the World Cup and, Rugby Championship and Six Nations and all those competitions. The Champions Cup is not on that broadcaster this year. It's a separate subscription to EPCR's TV service. Same in Australia, same in like Italy, same in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, South America. All those areas are going to be on their own broadcasting service, which I'm not a huge fan of because it's the same one as the URC use. And I tested them at the start of the URC season, and they don't have the ability to pause or rewind or start the game late. It's either live or you wait until like an hour after the game and then they upload the replay, which kind of sucks. I did ask them, are you guys going to introduce that kind of DVR, ability to pause and rewind on the fly? And they said possibly, but not for round one. So you've not really sold me on paying 60 euros, which is like 120 bucks here in New Zealand, which may not sound like a lot, 60 euros, but my entire sports package for, as I said, Six Nations, Rugby Championship, all the All Blacks games, Super Rugby, that was 400 bucks. There's 120 for just the Champions Cup, I guess, and the Challenge Cup as well. So there may be a few people sailing the high seas for this competition. We'll have to wait and see. But like my dad, who was a kind of casual fan of this competition, would certainly tune into a game if it was being broadcast on our main broadcaster, but no way in hell he'd be paying extra. This is kind of for the diehards, isn't it? Diehard fans who will sign up for those kind of extra subscriptions if they don't already have one. But anyway, hopefully it is a good one. Like I said, there are some certainly big games which I am looking forward to, even if I find the pool stage a little bit clunky. We will see how the teams go for this season. What do you guys reckon? Any teams outside the ones I've got on the board that you could see as a potential contender? Or do you think the winner definitely comes from this bunch? Champions Cup is back. You guys take care. And I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.